Hey, welcome to Socialism for All. This is Livestream number 15. Pretty sure today's date is April 27, 2022. As is usual in these live streams, we're going to do probably some current events and then also just kind of chat about, I guess, other current events or just whatever's on people's minds. And, just the usual reminder this is not a debate bro stream, so we're not really doing like thoughts on China or just try to avoid the typical questions of like, I don't know, just think about the questions that get asked of every streamer, including me, not really a streamer, but people who do this on a regular basis, like the kind of stuff people ask them constantly. Don't ask that. Let's have a conversation about something interesting and maybe a little bit more original. That's what I'm looking for. Just whatever's on your mind. We got into a thing about microplastics a while back, or food and capitalism, like whatever it is. Just it doesn't have to be about adding more streamer takes to your photo album of like streamer take collection. That's not really what we're going for here. It's me. Hold on. Loud engine. Thought I was gonna have to mute it. It's us having a conversation, and I want this to be interesting for me as much as like for anybody else. So, I'm the only one that has the ability to speak in this, but I will read out comments just to remind about the comments. If there is a troll, just let me ban them. Don't interact with it. Try to just keep that to a minimum because honestly, it clogs up the chat and makes it kind of unreadable. So, yeah. And, I'll kick people from the chat for a day. I'll let you back in after the stream is over for next week. But, yeah, don't be clogging up the chat and stuff like that. Even if your intention is good, it's still going to clog the chat. So, anyway, before we get into, I guess, like any of the current event stuff, and you know what? There's no rule that says we have to do the current event stuff at the top of the whatever this thing is at the top of the recording here. So why don't we actually there is one rule. I'm going to thank the patrons. So where's my patrons? There are the patrons. Is that current? Yeah, that's current. Today's patron is there. So thanks to the current patrons. We don't run any ads at Socialism for All, so Patreon is pretty much it. That support is important. It's allowed me to spend a lot more time on this channel, develop everything a lot more, and it's greatly appreciated. Also important is engagement, so liking, sharing, subscribing, clicking, all that kind of stuff. That helps to boost it in the YouTube algorithm. But as far as making the content in the first place, me taking the time out to do the research, get the screenshots, all that kind of stuff, do the recording, make the video, edit the video, export the video, upload the video, all that stuff really takes a lot of time, and I'm not independently wealthy, so the financial support helps, and again, we don't run ads, so I feel that the ads help Google and YouTube more than they help me, so, plus nobody needs to be exposed to that crap, so, all right. That said, let's talk about some comments, and then I can drop in maybe some current events as time allows. So, and I will just say about that, I usually do these on Tuesdays, and I didn't do this stream yesterday because I thought I would spend the time doing a COVID update. And I sat down to do it, and I even recorded like 45 minutes of a COVID update. And you know what? I am so fucking sick of talking about COVID-19. I mean, who isn't? But I mean, really, like it was just I've had COVID articles just piling up over the last few months because it's nearly impossible keeping up. Like I could do a full-time channel just on COVID, basically. There's that much information coming out about it, and it is just kind of overwhelming. And to be honest, I was watching a movie last night, and it was it was a comedy, and there's like a big party in the movie. And I was watching the thing and just going like, holy shit, when was the last time I like had this much fun? Like we live in, I mean, there's a pandemic, you can't just go out and socialize in person as easily as in the past. And But just watching, I was like, holy shit! I've like literally forgot what like having a good time really was because we live in such awful times right now, and it's like, I've been really careful about not getting COVID because I got it in 2020 and I had like crippling brain fog and fatigue and shortness of breath for the entire, like pretty much all through 2021. And it finally went away about 12 calendar months later. So I really don't want COVID. I had pretty severe health like ramifications of that. I think there was stuff going on with my immune system, and it's bad. That was before the vaccines were available or anything like that. But yeah, so I'm trying not to get COVID, trying to wait the thing out, and it's like literally it seems worse now than ever before. And it was just kind of remembered last night, like holy shit, I used to have fun, and I don't know, I just couldn't finish the fucking. I could not bring myself to like sit down and do more COVID stuff. So maybe we'll drop that into this. I mean, I kind of deliberately didn't want to do it on the live stream because I wanted to just sort of chat more, and also I wanted to like spend some more focused time on it, and do a good recording and stuff like that of it. And I just could not sit there for like the requisite number of hours and like go through, COVID is airborne, and they're finding all this new research about the organ damage that it does, and it's just like I just can't. So maybe that will turn up in a live stream. Maybe it'll turn up in a more focused video. But whatever the case, I just that was why I didn't do a live stream yesterday. Anyway, let's get into the chat. So we got 24 people in here now, and Lulu started us off with what a night. So I posted a community post about this, but for people on Twitter, Twitter has a feature, or I guess for people not on Twitter, Twitter has a feature. Speaking of Twitter, Elon Musk. Maybe we'll get into that a little bit too. It's been kind of a crazy week. Elon Musk bought Twitter. I mean, I guess the deal isn't final, but like the agreement has been made. Not really the best news, I think, judging from how the libertarians are reacting to it and getting sort of like very brazen about harassing non-libertarians, crypto fash. Some aren't so crypto about it. Anyway, but Twitter has a feature called Twitter Spaces, which are like basically voice chats, kind of like a Discord voice, room, except that not everybody is necessarily like a speaker. So you don't have 11 people like talking over each other at once. So apparently there was some kind of thing. There was a space going around hosted by Infracell. God, it's just like this was the most glorious thing to watch. As far as just the stupidity, it's I mean, on one level there's serious harm being done by the Infracell fans who just go out and are very disruptive to other people until you block them all, that is. On the other hand, it's like just watching this giant moron just show his whole ass like every fucking day, every time he opens his mouth. In this case, so apparently this is the version I got, that Infracell's big plan is to do a sort of modified form of entryism. Normally, entryism is when one organization mass enters another organization trying to basically take it over. Trotskyists do this sometimes, like it's kind of a known pattern there. Although it's not exclusive to Trotskyists. Anyway, but you kind of have to have an org first for it to, I think, truly qualify as entryism. Anyway, but Infracell wanted to like basically send his audience, as some of you may know, into CPUSA and like join in mass numbers. This came up a few months ago, and CPUSA pushed back. And I mean, whatever you think of CPUSA, this is, I think, not the greatest plan for two reasons. One, people can tell an Infracell audience member as soon as they open their mouth. Like, it's not exactly... I don't think these people are the brightest either in terms of being able to conceal their views. So, I'm not sure that the whole, like, covert stealth aspect would really work. Second of all, I mean, why are those people in that terminally online audience anyway? They're terrified of real world interaction. So it's not like they're going to be actually joining any organizations anyway. Good plan otherwise, though. But I guess one of them actually did this, like an Infracell fan who was down with this whole, like, let's infiltrate CPUSA plan, got into the Louisiana club and then tried to steal real estate assets, allegedly. This is all I've heard so far. I don't know names or anything like that. But I guess that in response to this, Infracell started a space last night titled CPUSA Drama. And when I got into it, there were 1,200 people listening. And many of them not his usual audience, sycophant ass kissers. And a number of people were getting up to speak and just cutting him in half, honestly. It was really sad. There was one woman named Esperanza who said that she does union organizing, and the whole conversation there was like, Infracell was like, you do community organizing, you're just throwing out a phrase, What does that actually mean? What does community organizing actually mean? It's just a phrase. And, I was posting about this. I was like, imagine calling yourself a Marxist of any type whatsoever and not understanding what community organizing is. Just bizarre. So anyway, she goes on multiple times and this thing went on for hours. This was just one person who confronted him out of this. It was hilarious, but also really desperately sad at the same time, because you got a person there who cannot speak to anyone with respect. She tries to answer the question. He keeps cutting her off, which is clearly, he didn't do it to everyone, but it was like every time he got into trouble, what he would do is cut people off as soon as they started talking. Like they'd get 10 words in and he would just start talking over them. So that's a desperate tactic to just shut somebody up, just not let them speak. That's when you are afraid that there's going to be like an ass whooping coming down. Just prevent it from happening. So after like 20 times of this, she was like, are you going to let me speak? Are you going to let me speak? You need to mute yourself. And he's like, I'm not taking orders from you. It was just desperately sad. So she finally explained, she's like, well, we need to build mass orgs. So many people focus so much on the idea of just a party, like a vanguard party, which is an organization of the most class-conscious elements in the working class. Okay, you need that, but you need mass orgs to get people actually, also working on their problems. The vanguard party is not going to be everywhere all at once, directing everything. You also need working people to become independently, autonomously class-conscious, being able to work on their own problems, but then also, I say autonomous, but like also within the framework and the guidance of some sort of overall plan, probably coordinated, through the vanguard party, if it's developed, etc. But you need mass organizations. So she was trying to explain, like, labor unions or students or women's organizations, like, you go to the masses, you talk to people of different demographics, like people who have particular, like, set interests that they can really easily work on together. Like people in an apartment building or people who work for the same employer, like whatever it is. People facing some of the same mini struggles within capitalism, like in their community. Oh God, and he was going on about how like communities don't exist, like Fortnite is like that's a community. People don't go to the town square anymore. And it was just like, oh my God, just because you never fucking log off the internet does not mean like other people in the world do not. It was like, I saw somebody posting about it. They were like, Haas having a stroke trying to comprehend that things happen offline. It was kind of what was happening. So anyway, Esperanza, who did great, gets through all of this and explains, what mass organizing is about, then stops. Infracell steps in and goes, all right, so all that was bullshit. None of that makes any sense, blah, blah, blah. You want to know what community organizing is? I'll tell you what it is. And then fucking paraphrased exactly what she said. It was mind-blowing. It was the stupidest thing I've heard in months. So that was amazing. And the best part was many other spaces broke out of it for people to carry on the discussion about it. Because it was so crazy. Like, you have this fucking moron who has really let it go to his head that, he's built up this audience of, like, sweaty, basement-dwelling, hostile, basically fascists who have a real penchant for disrupting socialist spaces and sort of pretending to be socialist or quasi-socialist. And then he's standing there in front of a virtual audience of 1,200 people, just acting like he's better than everyone else. And then everyone talking about what an absolute fucking jerk-off this guy is. To me, I mean, that would be a nightmare. That would be like a complete nightmare. That is the exact opposite of what anyone wants to have happen. I mean, I tweeted later that night, I was like, Haas at 40. That's the tweet. Can you imagine? Can you imagine the damage that is being done now to this person? I don't know how he's ever going to straighten this stuff out. Also, you listen to some of those rants that guy does, the sort of more abusive, hostile ones. And it's just like, there's no way that there was not some kind of heavy abuse environment. I don't know if it was bullying at school or, I mean, it's not really funny, but it's like now becoming perpetrator that changes, if it's like, but watching him like flip out in those sort of, putting the microphone in his mouth and like, listen, you, this and that. It's just like, were you heavily abused or something? Because acting it out like this is really not doing you any favors. Maybe it's time to chill, check the ego, take a step back. And if you're serious about this thing at all, which, I mean, I think pretty much everyone is aware it's not really serious at this point. But if it were serious at all, take a step back. You are one person within a large community of tens of thousands of people. You're not more important than everyone else. And you just need to try to be useful to that community. So it was crazy, though. I mean, just watching 1,200 people witnessing this, it was like, okay. I thought it was kind of a good moment of like many people on Marxist Twitter coming together and just being like, what the fuck is this? I thought it was very heartening, and that was what I saw in a lot of the breakout spaces after that. So, man, no, it was in a way really sad, in a way hilarious. And I found many new people to follow, good people, radical people to follow out of that. So I'm glad it happened. Yeah. So yes, people saying he was completely clowned on by people. I mean, he's the clown. It's all you got to do is kind of hold up the mirror. It's really fucking. It's just sad. But anyway, was it streamed on his YouTube? No. And I don't know if Twitter Spaces have a built-in record thing. I know a few people like screen recorded it. I didn't. Well, actually, no. I did start recording it, but I missed the Esperanza part for the recording. And then I recorded the next few people, and it just like wasn't. That was really the highlight from what I heard. But it went on for a long time. It's just like, all of the rest of us, we're doing whatever work we're doing. I'm doing audiobooks. I'm doing some commentary. Everybody else is like doing whatever work they're doing. And you just have this goon. It has a sort of uniting impact on people because everybody can agree, like, whatever they're doing, like, this guy's a doofus. But, just, I don't know. To me, it winds up bringing people together more than anything in the end. I don't think that that's the intent of it on Infracel's part. I think that the intent is clearly a disruptive one. At the very best, it's an extraordinarily dysfunctional person attempting to make a contribution and failing miserably in a very egoistic way. But just so people understand, it's not like the movement like revolves around this guy. It's a disruptive presence on the landscape that periodically the community will have a moment like this to address. And it's not feeding it to just once in a while have everybody stand together and be like, shut up. In fact, if anything, it's sort of a family reunion moment for people to come together and be like, oh yeah, I haven't seen this, account in a while. What are they up to? What are they working on? But anyway, moving on from that for a moment. So somebody says, how's the video coming on the plastics? Like I said, with the COVID stuff and everything, I just had to kind of, at least this week and for a few weeks now, just take a step back from doing that stuff. I think I just personally am at a point where I can't, you know, my psychic hazmat suit is just sort of like, it's getting a little worn thin in places. I just can't. I need to just sort of take a step back and do some audiobooks. So, I did get 4 short Lenin ones up over the weekend. I got a longer Mao one up the other day. And I am currently, I'm a half an hour into a Stalin audiobook. Believe it's the 1913 one, Marxism and the National Question. So that's maybe a quarter or like 20% of the way through. I have a companion thing that I'm doing along with that. That is called, do I still have the tab up here? It is called Nationhood or Genocide, the Struggle of the Native People Against Canadian and American Imperialism. Found that one, actually. It is from Marxists.org, but I saw the link from somebody I followed new last night who I met in one of these spaces. So, like I said, it brings people together. Good stuff happens. That might not be going up on the channel had some of those breakout spaces not happened. So, yeah. And then I will be doing at least probably the same way that I did black shirts and reds in chunks. There was like 5 or 6 chunks to that out of 9 chapters. I'm going to be doing Anti-During Part 1, which is number 20, the next installment on the basic Marxism-Leninism study guide. And again, if you go to the homepage on the YouTube channel, I organized the playlists a little bit better so you can find the basic Marxism-Leninism study guide playlist more easily. But yeah, I haven't added anything to that in a little while. So, but Anti-During is so long. The first part of it, which was actually part 3, was like 4.5 hours, and that'll take me like, I need a little bit more immediate gratification in terms of like record for 45 or 60 minutes, get it on the channel, and it's hard to like sort of just wait until the 4-hour thing is done. So the microplastics thing, I mean, we covered that on the live stream. I may pick it up again, but yeah, it's a huge thing. And yes, plastics and microplastics specifically can cross the blood-brain barrier. Yeah, so the average person, this was as of 2019 in the U.S., consumes a credit card 5 grams worth of plastic per week. So yeah, that's where we're at. Is there a way to limit consumption on an individual level? Well, the main source is water. So, there are a few other like juice and beer and things like that, which also contain water. So I'm not sure, to be honest, what kind of filters. I do recommend, if you can save up for a decent water filter, like $100 or $150, it will save you so much money in the long term. I bought one 10 years ago, and then you just periodically get replacement cartridges. I'm talking about not Brita. Like, if you can't get anything else, Brita is definitely decent. The ones you can get at like just any sort of drugstore or something. But if you can get one of the ones that hooks up to the faucet and use that to cook your food and to drink and stuff, enormous difference. Though I'm not sure what it takes to filter out specifically microplastics. Actually, let me take a look at that real quick. So microplastics water filter. I have not looked this up. I mean, they get out all kinds of other stuff. Minerals you don't need, chlorine, volatile organic compounds. So how to filter and remove microplastics from tap water. So this is from a site I'm reading, usawaterquality.org. Carbon block water filters, and it takes time to filter. So that's the thing is, if you do get, like, again, you may have to save up for it, but if you do get a water filter, like, forget bottled water, because that's another big source of plastic too. If your water tastes like plastic, that's probably not a coincidence. But then you can just sort of run your own fairly clean water. So they're saying carbon block filters can do it, but you have to run it slowly. That's what I was saying. That's the thing about hooking a thing up to your faucet, is like you have to run them pretty slowly, just so it passes through the filter. Like if you just blast it through the filter, it's gonna take some of the stuff mechanically with it just from the force of the water pressure going through. But they're saying reverse osmosis. Now that's really expensive. Plus you have to own your own house. I'm pretty sure you have to like hook it up. Actually, there may be under the counter reverse osmosis. Anyway, those are like multiple hundreds though. And plus it spends a lot of water. I think for every like 2 gallons that you use, it creates like 1 gallon of wastewater, which of course is, it's still going to be usable. It's not like the water disappears off the face of the earth, but not for you. But it will go into your water bill if you have a water bill. They're saying also distillation filters. Distillation filters are kind of inconvenient. Like they involve heat because you got to just turn the water into steam and stuff like that. So I don't know. I would do some some research on that. But they are saying carbon block filters, which are the most common kind, may be able to filter out some of the microplastics. So let's see. Somebody says, I try to avoid it too. I find it crazy how people will still judge you for taking measures to prevent getting sick. Yeah, this is like on COVID. And I mean, just in general, like, I mean, yeah, you can, some people like get hypochondria. That's more of like a separate issue. But I mean, we live in a pretty toxic world. If you take it seriously at all, it's, I mean, there's definitely things you can try to do, like get a water filter and, cut down on some of the crap that's going into your body. I mean, yeah, we're all going to die someday. The question is kind of quality of life, and are you going to get bogged down with like tons of diseases by the time you're 50? That's, I think, the question. And, especially for, I mean, some of the, various organic chemicals that wind up in the water, which may be carcinogenic. Again, just trying to get that stuff out as much as possible. I think recommendable because, a lot of people find out too late they were living in some kind of like toxic area. Well, look at Flint. I mean, that was going on for a long time before, the news actually broke. And also Newark, New Jersey. There was like a big, basically the same thing like Flint, the lead pipes, and I don't know. It's terrible. But yeah, it's distressing. I feel like I hit a point where I just need like kind of a break from it all. I've been going pretty hard at this channel for a while, and I'd prefer not to have like a mental collapse. So it might just be audiobooks for a little while. We'll see. About Elon Musk on Twitter, somebody says, I hate the moron saying that he will somehow protect free speech. Just develop class consciousness already. This is getting super old. Yeah, no, that's the revisionist, opportunist, right-wing populist crowd that's like, I mean, they're libertarians, basically, that are like, Elon Musk, he will make us smart, he will make us free, he will make us rich. No, he won't. I mean, as far as like, here, let me put a picture on the screen. There's, the picture going around of him, that one, which he tries to write off as like, oh, she just ran up and they like photobombed us. Yeah, okay, because that happens. Like that happens at sort of ritzy events like this. But it's not like this was the full extent of the Musk-Maxwell connection. Epstein was, well, let's read the article. So, where is this the one? Yeah. So this is from The Observer, I think. Elon Musk is the latest powerful person haunted by Epstein's death. This is from August 2019, around the time I started up S4A, actually. I remember all the, like, Epstein didn't kill himself memes and all that stuff, when that was, like, the thing. So reading through this by Sissy Cow, the enigmatic death of convicted financier Jeffrey Epstein over the weekend was seen as a relief to many of his powerful friends because whatever dirty secrets he knew about them are now forever buried. But they forgot one thing. If Epstein ever leaked any of these secrets to journalists on off-the-record terms in the past, they are now public knowledge. And the article continues. One such lucky reporter was the New York Times' James B. Stewart. Stewart disclosed previously untold details about his interview with Epstein in August 2018, so a year before this, concerning his business dealings with Silicon Valley's power figures, particularly Tesla CEO Elon Musk. And so he'd heard a rumor that Epstein was advising Musk on a crisis response strategy after Musk's explosive tweet about taking Tesla private backfired with shareholders in the SEC. Stewart also said he'd heard Epstein was compiling a list of candidates to replace Musk as Tesla's board chairman, which later became part of the agreement under Tesla's settlement with the SEC. According to the journalist, Epstein acknowledged his involvement with Tesla, but avoided discussing the work in detail, reasoning that, quote, once it became public that he was advising the company, he'd have to stop doing so because he was radioactive. He predicted that everyone at Tesla would deny talking to him or being his friend. And if anything, if Epstein's prediction on how Tesla might react was acute, Tesla spokesperson issued a statement. It is incorrect to say that Epstein ever advised Elon Musk on anything. And also the journalist, Stewart, said, it seemed clear Mr. Epstein had embellished his role in the Tesla situation to enhance his own importance and gain attention. Now, that may be the case, it may not, but there's crossover there. I'm not doing that particular work of journalism to dig more of that stuff up, but who knows? Bill Clinton's on the flight logs. It wouldn't shock me to see other, fabulously rich and powerful people such as Elon Musk. But yeah, no, people thinking that, Musk sort of, menacingly gloating about people being afraid of the free speech that he's going to unleash on the site. Let's just compare that to other possible scenarios. Let's say that you bought a company and everybody was going to, the discussion that's actually happening, people are afraid that the site is going to just become Facebook 2 or, Parler or something like that. Just this like proliferation of right-wing disinformation heavily. I mean, yes, things like CNN are slanted to say the least, biased. There's a new level of stuff, though, going on out of MAGA, which is like anti-rational, just completely, there's not even a germ of truth to it, etc. I mean, it is what it is. We'll just leave it at that. But people are concerned that the site's going to become unusable. Another aspect of that is the online safety and harassment situation, which, I mean, it's bad enough on Facebook. Twitter was not great. I mean, you'd run into like K-Hive and shit like that. But they had their right wing somewhat more under control. And I dared to tweet about this, and I literally had like 50 random libertarian chuds weighing in. I, as a rule, do not interact with these people. My path just does not cross with theirs. And I tweeted about it one time, and I was just getting dumped on by like tons of chuds. So it's like, if that's any kind of a foreshadowing of what's going to be happening with the site, then a lot of people are rightfully concerned about being able to actually use it, have normal conversations with other people without right-wingers jumping in and just destroying, any sort of cohesion to the conversation, let alone if you try to do some sort of discussion about unionization, et cetera, et cetera. A little bit of that happens now, but of all the platforms, I see the ability to have progressive, socially progressive conversations is probably the best on that site currently. And right-wingers are already sharpening the knives to try to retract that. So, another scenario, given that those are the actual concerns people are voicing, is they don't want it to just become a disinformation hub, and B, online safety and harassment. Musk could have been like, hey, I hear what you're saying, don't worry, we're still going to be enforcing safety policies, blah, blah, blah. Instead, he posted, let me dig it up, pretty much the exact opposite of what you would expect somebody trying to reassure the public. Why does it take so long to load? Maybe I just retweet too much stuff too. There we go. So this is from yesterday, April 26th. Elon Musk, the extreme antibody reaction from those who fear free speech says it all. And I was like, okay, so you think that gloating menacingly is going to inspire confidence in people? I don't know, but so it does seem like something not great is going to happen. On the other hand, um, people were pointing out that Tesla stock already dropped 15% yesterday since all this has been going on. And apparently he was borrowing because he bought it for $44 billion. He had to leverage like $200 billion in stock options against it. And a lot of people in sort of finance Twitter were laughing hysterically about this. One person was like, "My dad cannot stop laughing about this." So we'll see what actually happens. Like the deal may not even go through. He might wind up just falling on his face in this process. But as far as the tenor of the site, it could change and become unusable. Um, yeah, yeah. And as far as just developing class consciousness, you're right. Like that is the issue, and people are looking for any kind of other way out of this, other than actually you know doing socialism, let's say. It's any other, it's sort of like the technology will solve climate change sort of delusion. No, it won't. And, it's like Elon Musk will sort of, fix. Elon Musk, the anti-imperialist billionaire, that's going to be the next thing. Anti-imperialist being this, like, lazy shorthand these days for, like, it's going to do all the work for us. No, you have to develop class consciousness, engage in class struggle, confront capital, etc., etc. There's not these like technological shortcuts. Anyway. All right, that's enough on that. Let's see. Somebody said on the infracell thing, I loved how he said, "What does community organizing mean? That's vague words." And then he would turn around and say, "Our goal is to create media that will spread Marxism, Leninism. Organizing is pointless." That's even more vague. He said local communities don't exist in the age of the internet. Actually, he went beyond that. I forgot about this, but he was like memes and vibes and moods and tone. Like being a leader, it's about setting vibes and moods and tones and understanding memes. And Esperanza just laughed at him and was like, "You've got to be kidding me. Like, log off. Log off. Vibes and moods and tones and memes. That's what it's about." Somebody get a Lenin meme template, one of those Lenin quote, and just vibes and moods and tones and memes. That's organizing. It was terrible. He was getting destroyed, and that's why he just kept interrupting. Haas will be like, "This guy actually isn't real," and his fanboys will be like, "So true." So, oh god, we got one in here. Literally, all caps. Haas did nothing wrong. Cope libtard. My god, you people are fucking caricatures. Do you even understand? Do you understand how this comes off to other people? Do you know how just foolish you look? We're laughing at you. It's because of the way you're behaving. It's a joke. You're a joke. I'm not even bothered by it. It's ridiculous. You might as well be coming up to me in a full-on clown suit, being like, "Honk honk, libtard." It's funny. It's losing its power. Okay, when he broke onto the scene a year ago, people maybe like stopped for a minute to try to figure out, is this guy for real? What's he bringing to the table? But it's really, I think, lost its power now. So, yeah. Let's see. What do we have? So, yeah. Haas is embarrassing. I think it was Huey Newton in a speech I heard you read said that, paraphrase, the revolution will take place when communism is organized block by block, city by city, state by state. Yeah, it's not vibes and moods and tones and memes. That's definitely for sure. And that was one of the things he was being confronted on. And again, this isn't all about him. It's about he is a perfect example. It's the underlying principle here because other people do some of this stuff, and it's an error no matter who does it. He just happens to like embody these errors particularly well, so we continue to use him as an example of what not to do. Yeah, that was one of the things that I just anyway. I've just had enough. All right. Yeah, Infracell made a video about Elon Musk buying Twitter. And if you look at the title of the video, it looks like a video a right winger would make in 2010. He's starting to look like typical Dunk on Libs channel these days. Yeah, it was. The title was Elon Musk bought Twitter. Let's go. That is exactly what a libertarian. Well, it's not just what a libertarian would say. It's what they were dropping in on my posts to say. So, anyway. All right. So, talking about COVID, walking around where I live, everyone has ditched mask wearing. As somebody else, where I live, unless I'm at a doctor's office, I'm basically the only person wearing a mask still. That person is in the South. And I've heard of doctor's offices where people are not even wearing masks, or they're just wearing surgical masks or something like that. Yeah, we're having a surge coming up. You know what? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about COVID for a little bit. I'll put a couple of graphics on the screen. See, I need you people here. I hate saying you people. I mean, you all are people. I need you all here for the support. To be honest, I guess if I said it that way, it would sound too sentimental. But you people went too far the other way. I need you all here. Because honestly, just recording it offline, it's so honestly, we can talk about Infracell being a sad or sorry excuse for, whatever the hell it is he's trying to do. This is actually sad. This is devastating to me, looking at the COVID stuff. So, what do we have? Where is my BioBot? Here we go. COVID by region. So for whatever reason, this hasn't been updated since April 20. So we're missing like a full week of data. But you can see now this is the last 6 weeks broken down by region of the United States. The Northeast has been leading in overall quantity of virus, and basically the biggest outbreak has been in the Northeast. That's looks like everywhere from Delaware up through Pennsylvania, New Jersey, New York into New England. So yeah, and then the variant overview in the upper right corner, that hasn't been updated on their site since April 6th. So BA2 was at 70 to 85% at that point, and that's higher now. Actually, original Omicron BA1 is almost extinct, and BA2.12.2. So you have BA2 and then BA2.121, basically. Or it's 0.12.1. Anyway, it's kind of cumbersome to say. That second BA2, the 121, that's coming up rapidly as well. But basically, original Omicron is basically extinct, and people are getting reinfected 3 or 4 weeks later. So we're going into a surge. Now you can see the Northeast is weirdly flat there. I don't know if that's an artifact of the graph, because nowhere else on any of the charts is anything that sort of just geometrically flat like that. I don't know if this is an issue with their chart, because it looks like it hits the top value and then just like levels out there. I don't know if they forgot to update their thing to make it go beyond 400 or 450 or whatever that is. That's kind of what I suspect, but everywhere is going up now. The other three regions, the South, which is like Texas over to Florida, up to Virginia and West Virginia, that was low for a long time. Now it's rising. The Midwest is second behind the Northeast. That's Ohio up to Minnesota, down to Missouri, and also through the Dakotas, Nebraska. So that's number two. So it kind of looks like it's spreading from the Northeast. I feel like I'm doing a really weird, morbid weather forecast. We can see outbreak in the Northeast later today. That's going to spread over to the Midwest. Anyway, and then it looks like the Midwest and West are coming up at the second sharpest angle. The South is kind of leveling out for a while. But the thing we know about these lines, they level out, then they go back up. They wiggle. Don't take leveling out to mean that it's over. I mean, that's just not the nature of COVID. Hold on, I need a sip of water. COVID spreads, not having COVID does not spread. It's COVID that spreads. So if you have infection, in the absence of transmission controls, in the absence of measures that halt or stop or slow the spread of the infection, then the infection spreads. That's just how it works. And speaking of, contagiousness, transmissibility, BA2 more transmissible than BA1, which was more transmissible than Delta, which was much more transmissible than the original. Now the BA2121, that's even more transmissible than BA2. Then you got BA4, which I don't have a graphic on, but that's extremely immune evasive. This is really bad stuff. I think that this is going to be an awful year for the pandemic. But anyway, that's what's going on. So also, why are we looking at wastewater? So this is the least politically affected because they count all the sewage. It's not just like with the cases, maybe we'll count it, maybe we won't. And then there's also rapid tests. I mean, yeah, for wastewater, I guess there's people who have outhouses or something, but most of, the excreted COVID is being, monitored where there's monitoring. So, there are a few variables. People will shed COVID at different rates, things like that. Overall, though, this shows up as soon as somebody gets COVID in their body. The virus multiplies using their body cells equipment. The virus makes more of itself, gets excreted, shows up in the wastewater. That's fairly immediate. Cases lag by about a week or so behind that because you got to get it, then it multiplies, then you get symptoms, then maybe you get tested, then the test gets developed, then you get the results, and then the results get reported. So that takes a while. That's more lagging compared to the sewage. After that, hospitalizations, because it's not like you get COVID and the next day you go to the hospital. You fight it out. If it gets bad enough, you go to the hospital. So that maybe lags a week behind cases. Then deaths lag maybe another week behind hospitalizations because, you'll be in the hospital, you'll be fighting it out, you'll be ventilated, and then maybe you make it, maybe you don't. So that's sort of the order of lagging indicators, and each is separated by about a week. So looking at sewage is kind of the most immediate, and there's the least interference. So it's good. This site is, again, biobot, biobot.io. And then if you want to go to /data, there's also a thing you can click on the front page to see that. The pandemic, it's, we had a lull all through late February and then March, and clearly that lull is now over. For the last 3 or 4 weeks, it's just been going up, and it will just continue to do that. People can get reinfected. It doesn't even matter if you've been boosted. You have to wear a mask. You have to stay away from people wherever you possibly can. And I there's obviously limits. I'm very frustrated with, people not wearing masks, where I am, and it's enormously frustrating, but you really have to do everything that you personally can because, the United States has basically given up its collective approach, any sort of public health approach to preventing this, and it is now onto individuals, and individuals are at a massive disadvantage trying to do anything. This is just try to protect yourself the best that you can. But anyway, I guess while we have this up, go into it a little bit more. What else can we put in here? This article? No, don't want to do that one yet. That's one about, they had extended coverage to some people because of the pandemic, and when they pull the coverage back, that may throw the system into turmoil. It's like, can we just get universal health care already? Seriously. Where are we at? Test positivity. Let's do that. So here's from the Johns Hopkins Coronavirus Resource Center, a valuable resource. It's the Johns Hopkins University of Medicine. So this is a page, which U.S. states meet WHO recommended testing criteria. So basically the WHO, the World Health Organization, says that if your test positivity is above 5%, that means that all the tests that are being done, what percentage of them come back positive. If it's 5% or more, you should do a shutdown until it goes back under 5 for 2 weeks, 14 days. Well, Omicron, all the states in the United States were over 5%, some of them extremely far over 5%. Where are we at today? 2/3 of states are above 5%. And that's just going to go up. So all the advice about doing shutdowns is just completely being ignored at this point, and I can only assume will continue to be ignored. The only thing I'll say about this is they have attempted to, there was this idea that Omicron was going to be a natural vaccine, that it would be like mild, wouldn't really hurt people, but would give immunity. Well, if there's one thing we know, immunity doesn't last. Whether it's the vaccine or natural exposure, it doesn't last. It lasts a few months and then you can get reinfected. And in the case of Omicron and its variants, it looks like you can get reinfected a month later. So there's really no protection. You just have to stop the virus from getting in your body in the first place. Stop transmission, in other words. Anyway, hugely frustrating. There should be shutdowns. The point, though, is I see some glimmer of hope, and it's probably single digits percentage-wise. But I think that as this whole, they tried to basically say, oh, the pandemic's over, Omicron is a natural vaccine. I think that as it becomes abundantly clear as we go into the second and third surges of this, which may get extremely bad, there may be an opening for them to say, okay, look, we took a gamble, it didn't work. Now we need to buckle down a little bit. Hope you all enjoyed the break. I'm not saying they're going to do this. I'm just saying I see that there is a faint glimmer of possibility for them to introduce a new narrative of like, look, we tried closing our eyes. We had reasons. I mean, they weren't good reasons, but we had reasons, and it didn't work, so we need to get a little bit more restrictive now. I hope so. The only caveat is even if they do that, that they're going to do it in some insane way that hurts people still. For whatever good it does, it's still going to have bad side effects in whatever way they're going to do it. So anyway, again, not saying they're going to. I just think that with Omicron, and it's really a different virus at this point, it's so mutated. With those changes, there is a possibility for the ruling class to introduce new policy without too much egg on its face. I mean, not that it cares in the first place, but again, are they motivated to do this? Do they have reasons to do it? Those are other questions. I just think that it's pretty clear that that entire narrative got thoroughly defeated. So I guess my point is this. They're going to have to come up with a new narrative. Just saying logically, the possibility is that it could be an improved narrative, which I'll get back to that in a second. The White House science advisor on this has acknowledged that COVID is airborne, which is like, oh, wow, thank you for joining the rest of us. But there was another graphic I was going to put up here. Where is it? Yeah, there it is. Kamala Harris got COVID yesterday, or tested positive yesterday. And, there's an example. Chris Murphy, who is one of the senators in Connecticut, this article from the Connecticut Stamford Advocate, densely populated area near to New York City, hitting 8.5% test positivity. One of the senators comes down with COVID, and the vice president of the U.S. gets COVID. So there was this idea that, the rich and powerful could just sort of have their rapid tests and, if anything happened, they could take Paxlovid, which is the antiviral drug. Actually, there was an article about this too. So this is from the Boston Globe. Again, both of these are, from the Northeast. This is where there's been more focus on this because the Northeast has been dealing with COVID. It's been leading the country as far as the outbreak. I think we'll start seeing more stories from around the country later. But anyway, this is from the Boston Globe by Kayla Czar, April 21st. Title is A Puzzling Phenomenon. Patients report a rebound of COVID-19 symptoms after taking the antiviral Paxlovid. So this is a phenomenon that was found even during the trials, according to the article by Pfizer, which makes Paxlovid. Basically, it is very effective at the thing it's intended to do, which is basically stopping hospitalizations and basically curtailing the worst effects during the acute phase of COVID. But you take it for 5 days. That's like the course of Paxlovid. A lot of people are finding, though, they test positive, they take the Paxlovid for 5 days, then they test negative and their symptoms go away. But then they come back. So it seems in some people to not knock it out completely. And the second round of it may be less intense, although we don't know what the ramifications are for long COVID. But also probably people are walking around contagious for that period of time. Anyway, I saw an article on ACSH sort of like denouncing this article as, sensationalistic fear-mongering. No, I think that's actually hyper-defensive, preemptive counterattack by probably somebody with, stake in Pfizer. But no, I think that this article was actually very well-researched, well-written, and not hysterical whatsoever in tone. In fact, So anyway, it seems like this is sort of controversial, saying Paxlovid might not be as bulletproof as people thought. That said, on the whole, it does basically do its job. But, where the response is just, Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid on top of Band-Aid, it's a very leaky approach to stopping transmission, just allowing transmission to go basically unabated or very minimally abated, with just vaccines. Hey, maybe wear a mask if you feel like it. If your, quote, personal risk assessment tells you to wear a mask, maybe you should do that. Otherwise, get COVID, cross your fingers. Maybe you can get some Paxlovid. Although even the Paxlovid, the U.S. Congress failed to fund buying more doses of Paxlovid. It's just a shit show. I mean, honestly. So that's where we're at with that. This trolley problem meme, accurate, the two-party system, pulling the lever changes the color of the trolley from red to blue. So anyway, that's a little bit of the COVID update. We'll take it in pieces. Literally, I was working with these articles yesterday, and it was like, you just want to hang yourself. I mean, it's so depressing watching. We're in year 3, and it's just fuck me. Turn it off, make this thing end. It's crazy. All right, so let's get back to the chat here. There's a decent chunk of COVID update stuff. Somebody says Vin Diesel would make a good Lenin in a film. I think they're different types, actually. You know what I would have loved to have seen, though, is... what's his name? Gary Oldman playing Bukharin. I feel like every time I look at pictures of Bukharin, I think Gary Oldman. So that's my take. I think he's too old now because Oldman's older than Bukharin was when he died. But anyway, somebody says, I always drink, we were talking about the water filtering before, I always drink from the sink. They say it's supposed to be safe, but I've heard the bastards from the military and other companies put all kinds of bad chemicals in it. Yeah, like I said, I have a water, a 2-stage water filter. You can get, they kind of just look like, they're about a foot tall, 1.5 tall. They're I don't know how to describe them, just kind of cylinders with a slightly wider base. You can get ones that are 1-stage and they just have one big cartridge in them. You can get 2-stage ones. I have a 2-stage that has 2 different cartridges in it. You can get a 3-stage. You can put multiple different cartridges to filter out different junk, or just put a second stage of one of them if you want it to be super pure. I mean, I feel like getting out as much as you can get out is great. There's tons of stuff in the water, even the chlorine and stuff like that. You want that in the water because it keeps the water from developing all kinds of bacteria and shit you do not want to be drinking, that makes the water unsafe. That said, that's to protect the water or to keep it disinfected while it's traveling through the system. getting to your faucet. Once it's at your faucet, I mean, if you can get the chlorine out at that point, that would be a great thing to do. It does not need to go into your body. So that's to treat the water, not to treat you. So yeah, like I said, I have it hooked up to the faucet. It takes a lot of the crap out. Takes out like arsenic and different things. I forget all what it takes out, but yeah, I figure, I mean, yes, I could, get hit crossing the street one day, but assuming that I don't, yeah, it's probably better not to have like that stuff piling up in your body, let alone if you have like, like a Red Hill situation or something where something is getting dumped in the water and then people are drinking the water for like a year or more before it hits the newspapers and, people stop drinking it. I feel like the better safe, err on the side of caution. Just that I don't even know how much they cost anymore, but like because like I said, I bought mine back when things were still kind of cheap. Inflation, am I right? That's a whole topic in itself. But collapsing economy, collapsing society, collapsing economy. What was I just watching? Somebody shared a video of there's a shooting at a Little League game the other day. And somebody commented on that. I retweeted it. Somebody commented, I retweeted, "This is not freedom." Somebody commented they were an umpire and I think a basketball referee for a couple of years recently. And they were like, they described it as a front row seat to a collapsing society being at those events. But just so it's like you see the kids trying to play baseball and there's like pop going off in the background. What can I say? The United States is succumbing. It's really getting enveloped by collapsing conditions. Time to get organized. So somebody says, all right, here we go. I also want to say thank you, S4A, for what you do in this online space. It has helped me a lot for getting a better understanding of Marxism and its history. Keep up the good work. Well, what a nice, polite young person. Thank you. Actually, I don't know if you could be 60 years old. I have no idea. But yeah, thanks. Glad it's helpful. Everybody has contributions to make. I'm just one channel. There are organizations. There's all kinds of places you can learn stuff and sharpen class consciousness. I'm trying to just, particularly for the people who aren't in an organization yet, which I always encourage, even if it is just the only thing going on in your area is a DSA or something, join it, meet some people, because who knows, maybe you can find a few people who are also far left, and I don't know, maybe you start a side project with them, whatever, but get out there and network with people at a minimum. Again, if you just stay online forever, nothing is going to happen. Turn into infocell. But no, I'm glad it's helpful because, putting those resources out, anybody can use them then online, whether you're in an org or whether you're not. And, if you do join an org, you're taking that knowledge with you. So that's how I see it. Let's see. Somebody said, I once drank water from a bottle I left in the car in the summer overnight. So yes, adding heat. And God, it tasted like plastic tea. I had acid reflux, excuse me. Yeah, it'll do that. Actually, another thing that'll do it, great way if you want more plastic in your food, put plastic in the microwave. That's another great way to dose yourself with some plastic. I mean, they have all kinds of effects. They can mimic hormones. It can be very disruptive to your biology. Somebody says too much information is going to destroy your mental health and give anxiety and stress, which will give you a bad heart. So not necessarily. You have to do what you can cope with. And I think that's kind of what I was getting at before. And maybe this comment was about what I was saying about doing COVID. When it comes to all this stuff, do what you can cope with. I mean, whatever struggles you're actually facing personally, like it's one thing to sort of, go out there and, engage in organizing work, etc. There's also stuff that you absolutely cannot turn off. It's affecting you personally. And yeah, the idea is to do as much as you can, but also do like what you can actually cope with so that you don't wind up, giving yourself massive like burnout and breakdown. That doesn't really help anybody, including you. and in the end, also having things that you do, like socializing and playing sports or doing meditation or yoga or exercising, whether you run or jog, bike, walk, swim, like whatever it is. Having outlets for being active, that can reduce your stress level as well, help you burn off some of that extra energy and sort of clear your mind a little bit. If you're near greenery of some kind, walking in nature can be helpful. Not everybody has access to that. If you can at all, even if it's once a week or a couple times a month, try to get out into nature somewhere, even if you have to take a bus to get there. It can be worth it just to sort of clear your head. So, I mean, yeah, people do mental health in this environment that is very information intensive and things just happen as quickly as they do. Staying on top of mental health is important. I mean, there's a limit to how much you can really keep it in check. Like, you're getting evicted, then you're getting evicted. You know what I mean? I'm talking about all other things being equally stressful. Yeah, you gotta, if something comes up, lean on your networks. And if you don't have networks, find networks of people. That's what I'm saying. Like, get out there, meet people. It's not just about like, oh, DSA one time did this thing that I didn't like, therefore I'm writing them up. No, look, if they're the only fucking like people who are like left leaning in your actual community, they may be like willing to help you out, like if you have a bad situation, or at least be somebody to talk to in your real life. You know what I mean? And maybe one of them will cook you dinner one night or something, or just or we'll watch a movie with you or something. And like stuff like that matters, and we do have to build up some of that resiliency. Some people have a church or a religious community, different things, but you do need to balance it as much as you can, because obviously conditions are bad. This is not really like a great time. I mean, I don't know. Anyway, continuing. Let's see. Oh, yeah, somebody talking about, pretty sure Elon Musk is class conscious. Yes, billionaires are very class conscious. You got to be kind of paranoid to get that rich. I mean, they're very aware of how competitive things are at that level, and that, their intent, they hate poor people in a way that is hard to convey. Honestly, they're afraid of becoming poor themselves, and they absolutely, they express that fear in part through hate. And continuing, one funny thing I learned recently, Elon Musk's dad married his stepdaughter that he personally raised. Yeah, there was a whole thing about that. Oh, that was the other article. I don't know where my screenshots of that went, but Jeffrey Epstein, it's not just, he had some role at Tesla. Elon Musk's brother, I think his name is Kimball Musk. Apparently it is it's a sincere and genuine relationship that the guy has with his significant other. But his girlfriend, or I don't know what their status is now, was introduced to him by Epstein. So for what it is. Now, I mean, this isn't going to turn into like the Epstein conspiracy channel at this point, but anything that hurts Elon Musk, I feel like, is probably a help. Let's see. The guy is just again, king of the dorks. Like, what a just waste of humanity. But what do we have? So somebody says preventative health care and quality of life is king. The government cannot devote money, education, and resources towards that end because it interferes with worker exploitation and a rapacious for-profit healthcare system. Yeah, the medical system does not really, it profits heavily off of sickness. This sounds like a really tired, slogan, but they really don't profit in any way off of you being healthy. So, it's, people are forced into really stressful conditions, and people can't always take good care of themselves. I'm just saying, to the extent that you can, even if it's, like I said, once a week, you like go find a park and like sit in it or something, whatever it is, there's different exercise and relaxation and meditation things online. It's not going to fix your structural problems, but it might. open up a little bit of mental space for you to just come up with some way to deal with something. That's all I'm saying. Also, I'm tempted to do some food videos on the channel because you can eat pretty healthy for cheap if you cook your own food. And again, finding the time to do that, but it's not always as time intensive as people sometimes make it out to be. I am also a poor working person, and yeah, it does take time, but if you prepare food in bulk, especially, you can cook twice a week and have stuff, ready to go for days. Food will keep for 5 to 7 days if you store it properly in the fridge. So, and again, it doesn't have to be like, oh, you cook and eat, 100% of your own stuff. It's not like that at all. It's just like the more you cook for yourself, like if you have something in the fridge, you don't have to call out for it and spend more money and probably get like greasier food and whatever. It's, again, it's not like this is the way and it's a religion. It's like the more you cook or like the more you have leftovers sitting around in the fridge that you made yourself for cheap, then the more likely you are not to have to eat out somewhere or get fast food or whatever. And like that's the point. If you can cut it down from 100% to 50, okay, you're doing better. It's like it's probably going to be a bit better for you, and it's going to save you some money and stuff like that. So I don't know. At some point, maybe I've been sort of in the early planning stages on that, but I'm not really ready to pull the trigger on like food or like recipe videos at this point. So what do we have? Something else. Somebody says Twitter is mostly fascist from the first world. It's a hostile platform for communists and proletarians, especially those in the third world. It won't fundamentally change, just a different reactionary figurehead. I know, like I'm aware of the hostility that's on there. Believe me, it can get worse. I thought Facebook was much worse than Twitter, like much worse. So I think it can get a lot worse. We could quibble about the word fundamentally and just say it's a matter of extent. But I mean, I think that there's a lot of leeway there for it to get, And somebody else says, trying to organize on bourgeois social media is bordering on a lost cause. I mean, organizing, are you organizing on social media? I mean, sharing information and learning about projects, that's not a lost cause. I can point you to a specific project that I would not have heard of otherwise if not for their Twitter account. And it's, what's the guy's name? Is it Prolduck? Let me look this up. Prolduck. It's like Iron Prol or something like that. Red Army Duck, that's what it is. Iron Prol is the handle. Never would have heard of this guy. And, excuse me. They got a van and they give stuff to homeless people, food, socks, stuff like that. The name of the project is From the Heart PNW. It's in Seattle. And here, I'll put a link here. But so as far as this being like a lost cause or pointless, yeah. So From the Heart PNW. There's the link. Okay. So no, it's not a lost cause. I have, met and shared resources with, exchanged resources with a lot of people that I would not have, it just wouldn't have crossed my radar. So, I mean, trying to organize, I don't know. But, I mean, I definitely get news from organizations I would not have gotten any other way. Like, what are you going to do? Like, subscribe to 500 email lists or something? So, I mean, these things have a purpose. And it's definitely made me more informed about stuff that is going on. It's media. I mean, that's what it is. I think that the issue here is that it is media, and sometimes people confuse media with the reality that the media is covering. I think, again, Infracell is a good example of somebody who, like, mistakes the map for the territory. The vibes and tones and moods and memes, these are one step or sometimes more than one step removed from reality. That's not to say, though, that, I mean, and yeah, obviously the people that get lost in all of that stuff, the vibes and tones and moods and meanings, and they start mistaking those illusions for reality. Yeah, I mean, they're obviously making a huge mistake. But having social media where you can get four or five people together and get a van and start, doing something actually concretely useful for your community, and then sharing that with people, and putting that example around. I mean, no, that's pretty useful actually, and having platforms where people are doing that, giving each other ideas, exchanging information, resources, and contact information. Where sometimes people do meet up in real life with people or an organization or whatever. That's actually very valuable. You don't want to lose that. So, but there are limitations. That's not to say that it goes perfectly or that people don't get kicked off. Obviously, like there are limitations to it. That's not to say that people aren't using it very effectively, though, within those limitations. Would it be better to not have those limitations? Obviously, yes. But, like, yeah. Lenin back in the day, like, wrote some of his stuff in, like, invisible ink, on, like, wrappers. Like, I mean, the ability for people now to share information and get organized is incredible, and people should not take it for granted, because you're gonna wind up with a situation of like didn't know what we had till it was gone. I think people need to actually, if anything, find more ways to push their use of social media while recognizing, both the limitations of, yes, it's bourgeois owned, and also, yeah, it's just media. It's not actually the thing itself. It does not change itself. But anyway, hopefully that's clear. I do feel strongly about that, because then the thing goes away. Like, for example, S4A used to be on Facebook when Facebook was still quasi-usable. We reached thousands of people there, some of whom are still in the audience today, and I might not have come across those people and their, political education. Like, they had not come across these audiobooks before. Not saying I'm the only source, but they hadn't come across any of the other sources. They came across S4A, and so therefore it accelerated their process. But after that got shut down, then that wasn't there anymore for people to stumble across. So I don't know if it's just me running a channel being aware of these things. But yeah, we got to use the resources and avenues that we have. Obviously they have limitations, but don't take it for granted. So let's see. So anyway, this kind of continues with like somebody saying the biggest step a leftist can take is organizing in real life instead of just on the internet. So, okay, but let's keep in mind the construction of that sentence is organize in real life instead of just on the internet. Don't not use the internet, because again, it's useful for whatever you do with your organization, that will be happening offline. The impact that it has on your community, that's going to be happening offline. But you can tell the world about it after it's happening or as it's happening online. And so, I just want people to like value it appropriately, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Somebody said the only social media they can handle is Discord. See, I don't like Discord at all. I think it's kind of like reinvented bulletin board systems from the old days. I much prefer just having a feed, honestly. Discord I feel like is good for, once you meet some people that you want to like get to know a little bit better, have it be like more private. I think that's the thing there. But the idea of having a feed where you just subscribe to people or you quote follow them, and then you just click on what's new today, scroll through your feed, and you just get fed stuff, that's immensely useful. Now, again, the algorithm, like what gets fed to you, that is under bourgeois control, and we don't know, and it's opaque and stuff like that. And will it ever be perfect anyway? We don't know. But I know I get, stuff, it's useful. That's all I'm really trying to say. It's not the be-all, end-all, but like it has a use. Somebody says they completely quit Reddit recently. I've never really been into Reddit. I post the audiobooks over there. But actually, you know what this reminds me? I said in a previous live stream that I was looking at the analytics for YouTube, and like I wanted to see where the audience was coming from because somebody was asking me about this. And I said that per the analytics, like 8%, like less than 10% of the Twitter people were coming from. Sorry, I'm saying this completely wrong. I'm talking too much for like an hour and a half. Less than 10% of the audience was coming from Twitter. There, hopefully that was the correct sentence. I realized actually that wasn't even like even if it was that, I'd be okay without Twitter. But then I realized even that wasn't accurate because it was 8% of the share of people who were finding the channel through external sites, which was a much, so it was not 8% of 100, it was 8% of a much lower number. I was like, oh, well, that just made me realize, like, as far as, direct feed to the channel, that's limited value. Anyway, point being, Reddit, I do share the audiobooks there because there's like Our Socialism and Our America's Socialist, and there's a few places that I do share the audiobooks too, and some people seem to find that. Actually, Reddit is the biggest external site driver for the channel currently. But even then, it's tiny. So I've never really been a Reddit user. I know it has a reputation for being like super kind of like nerdy, not in a good way. But yeah. What else? So somebody says they're on both Hakeem and Mexi's Discords, and neither of them have been cracked down on. Yeah, I don't know how Discord would crack down on anything. So yeah. So people do not get it. The only thing that technology will do under the guidance of capital is find ways to destroy for profit better and faster and rope all of us into it, make us complicit in our own exploitation and mutual destruction. Yeah, it sure is, nice to think, though. I mean, it sure is some nice, lazy thinking to be like, at some point, it just turns into socialism. No, it does not. Nope. No matter how weak capitalism gets or how unstable, let's say, capitalism gets, no matter how heightened the contradictions, etc., it still needs to be pushed. And again, we're looking at possible climate collapse at this point. It cannot wait. So let's see. Listening to your stream as I sit at home recovering from COVID, it most certainly is not over, as they would have you believe. No, there's a surge starting, and I mean, just anecdotally, like, work contacts, like many more people are talking about, friends and family that came down with COVID, or like, it's now a lot more people are like, oh yeah, my friend got COVID, or like, there's definitely a surge kicking up right now, and it's just going to keep coming. This is BA2. I warned the S4A audience about it as much as I possibly could. We're really getting into the thick of it now. It's where it's getting really noticeable now. And, yeah, so let's see. Drug overdose deaths have also risen since COVID. People forget about it. Yeah, I mean, that's another really sad element to everything. Suicide in general rises in times of like strife. People are feeling disconnected from their social networks. It heightens people's sense of isolation and depression, and yeah, it's not good. I mean, we'll move on from that. Let's see. So there's a good question, because we do want to promote people joining organizations generally and getting involved in the community rather than just online. So this is for anyone, including me. And by the way, things in general in this chat are for anyone, not just me. I'm really not trying to have this revolve just around me in any way, as I mentioned at the beginning. I'm trying hard to take to heart the fact that we need to organize, but COVID and my social anxiety and depression makes it very difficult. Join the club. I think many people, especially people in their 20s, younger people coming up under these more intense circumstances, are experiencing a lot of that. makes it very difficult. Can you explain what to expect when joining an org, like after getting in contact with them and officially joining, in terms of activities and participations? Activities and participation. Well, it depends on the org. Um, First of all, one thing you can expect from far too many orgs, people in orgs take note, is that they won't get back to you for weeks. And honestly, if this happens, I would say just give up on the org after 3 weeks. Because if they're unable to respond to you within 3 weeks, and honestly, that is overly charitable and generous, but I'm trying to just draw it somewhere that orgs might be able to, live up to. If they can't get back to you within 3 weeks, forget about it. But because if they can't return an email or whatever in 3 weeks, can they really do a revolution? That's my question. An org that can't respond to new members, in my opinion, is either dysfunctional, not trying, or who knows what. But so unfortunately, I expect too many of them not to respond promptly. If that is the case, you can always see if they have a public meeting schedule posted and try just showing up. Or if you know somebody who's a member, trying to get contact info. But don't kill yourself trying to get into an org if they're not responding. If they're not responding, they probably don't have their shit together. That would be my overall thing. And I can hear people in orgs already getting upset about this, and to which I can only say, then fucking get your shit together. Because I'll tell you, it does not make the left look particularly good when and I hear this a lot. It does not make orgs look good. It does not make the left as a whole look good when people get up the courage to actually give you a phone call or an email or whatever, and send you a private message, and you just fucking blow them off. Because really, once you have put in an inquiry like that, that person that just contacted you is going to be every day like, oh, did they get back to me? Did they get back? It's exciting. Like, oh, I'm finally going to get organized. And if like 11 days go by, that person is going to be pissed. Like, it's just stressful. But I've heard of orgs, not getting back to people for 6 weeks. And it's like, excuse me, like, what were you busy with? You have somebody trying to join and help build up your organization. Did you have another priority? Like, what's the deal? Anyway, beyond that, I mean, assuming that that's my personal pet peeve, and I think that that's an overwhelming problem that needs to change. That's why I'm always harping on that. So anyway, that is what it is. I mean, once you get in, I think it really depends on the org. Like, find out when the meetings are, and maybe they will send you an info packet. Maybe they won't. If other people want to join in, with their particular experiences, I can read those out. Yeah. So, let's see what else. Did I hear about the self-immolation outside of the Capitol building to protest climate change? The media ignored that he was a climate activist and called it a suicide. Yeah, because people normally just commit suicide, specifically in front of government buildings. His friends from his Buddhist temple said that it was an act of compassion and that he planned it for over a year and he wasn't suicidal. Yeah, yes, I keep seeing that, and the guy's name is escaping me at the moment. He was a bald guy with glasses and a mustache. And let me see if I can put his face on the screen here. If the thing would load. There we go. No, there we went. Can we go again? There we go. Climate immolation. Ah. Left the A out. Win Bruce is the guy's name. Let me get a screenshot. Okay. I'll put a screenshot of the guy's face up there. Yeah, so on Earth Day, he set himself on fire, and it was to call attention, I believe, to climate change. And there we go. Get that up there. There he is. Yeah, Wynn Bruce, Wynn, Bruce, like the name. Yeah, I'll tell you, if climate collapse continues, this won't be the craziest thing to happen. I'll just leave his face up for a while there. Uh, yeah, so the media definitely was downplaying that. So let's see. I mean, I don't know what else to say. Like, yeah, we're kind of fucked. Literally, we're either going to end capitalism or capitalism will end the planet. It's that simple. So yeah. Um, what else do we have? Another comment. More amazed rather than that the mainstream media or didn't cover it. That more content creators in the left didn't hear a peep from either. Yeah, I mean, as far as my channel, like, I don't know who specifically you're talking about, but I mean, speaking as a content creator, you just simply cannot cover everything that happens. I retweeted a bunch of stuff about it. For me, a lot of days I cannot make videos. And when I can make videos, it's very limited. Like, I wanted to do a big COVID update. I didn't even get through that. I also had a couple of other articles I wanted to cover. Didn't get to those at all. So, I mean, because an independent content creator doesn't cover something, it does not mean that they don't care or that they're not aware of it or they're not doing anything about it. I mean, don't put media content creators. This is another fundamental error of somebody like Infracell, thinking that you have a social media site or channel that is has a lot of subscribers. That does not in any way put you like above anyone else in this movement. So just as creators themselves should not get an ego. I mean, don't look at them that way either. I'm somebody that started up a channel and I'm trying to be helpful, but I am a guy who wanted to read more Marx and Engels and Lenin and all that stuff, and I felt like I had something to add as far as doing some current events commentary. But I'm not like CNN. I can't just like do a video on like any given thing that I feel like doing. And I think people should just realize that. So it is what it is. If people don't cover the specific thing that you want them to, it's just that's why there's a movement, I guess is what I'm trying to say. Yeah. Actually, speaking of, I'm going to get to some more comments about joining an org, but speaking of covering stories, here's another one. I'm sure somebody out there is upset. I haven't covered this yet. That's also the thing about running a channel is like, if you try to just directly play to the audience constantly, you will be on a forever treadmill, plus the audience will never be satisfied. So that's something I've learned is people are like, do this, do this, do this. And you try to do some of it, but it's like realistically you just can't. And I hope people understand that. Anyway, here is an article about file under only in the USA headlines, but more seriously, also violence against women and ACAB. So this is from Raw Story. Woman who sued Tennessee sheriff for forcibly baptizing her is found dead. Yeah. So what happened in this story? Let's go back a little bit to the history. So that story is from April 14, 2022. There is a backstory here, though. Let's see if I can find the right article. So, let me just, I think there's even an older article. Let's go back to the other one. So basically there's a cop with a lot of complaints against him. And he's been doing crazier and crazier shit. So let's read this article. This is from the Chattanooga Times Free Press, local regional news, April 8, 2022. by LaShawn Pagan, I think. Sorry, that's really small text on my screen. And that is the cop there in the picture. So, sorry, losing my, okay. A U.S. District Court judge gave the go-ahead Thursday to a lawsuit against a former Hamilton County deputy accused of baptizing a woman against her will during a 2019 traffic stop. Now, this sounds like sort of weird, amusing news. It is not. In addition to ruling that the suit against Daniel Wilkie, that's the cop, 28, may proceed, Tennessee Eastern District Court Judge Travis R. McDonough ruled that several aspects of the complaint against former deputy Jacob Goforth could not continue. Wilkie allegedly called Goforth to witness the baptism, and Goforth recorded the incident on his cell phone. While excluding Goforth from most complaints in the lawsuit, the judge did say that the former deputy had failed to protect the woman from Wilkie's use of excessive force. Quote, Goforth is qualified for reasonable immunity and summary judgment on this claim, the judgment said. However, the ruling also found that Goforth had ample time to stop Wilkie from committing an unreasonable seizure. This gets really weird, so stay with it. Quote, and if anything, the truly bizarre nature of these facts should have put Goforth further on notice that the seizure was inappropriate, you think? Goforth had said he believed the woman to not be under police custody because she arrived at Soddy Lake in her own vehicle. In other words, she wasn't in the back of the patrol car. But the judge stressed in his ruling that the woman might not have thought she was free to go until she was baptized by Wilkie, which makes sense because that's basically what he told her. McDonough went on to say that, quote, in view of all the circumstances surrounding the incident, a reasonable person would have believed that he was not free to leave, or would feel free to decline the officer's requests or otherwise terminate the encounter. Quote, there are genuine disputes of material fact concerning whether the woman was coerced into the baptism, though there aren't, whether she would have faced harsher penalties had she refused to be baptized, and whether Goforth should have known that the woman was being coerced, the judgment said. So that judge is being extraordinarily lenient, to say the least. So there's the guy again. The lawsuit against Wilkie and Goforth accused both men of excessive force, assault, and intimidation, among other charges. Ultimately, claims against Goforth individually, that was the other guy, for unreasonable search, failure to protect and render aid, negligence, battery, assault, and intentional infliction of emotional distress were dismissed in the judgment. On Wilkie's baptizing of the woman, McDonough said it violated the woman's choice of religion, as well as violating the state's own duty to respect the person's choice. Quote, now, this is really, I think that this is getting far afield of the actual core substance of what happened. Let's skip ahead a little bit to that. So on February 6, 2019, so this was several years ago, shortly after 9 p.m., Wilkie, that guy in the picture, stopped the woman who was driving through the Soddy Daisy area. After Wilkie asked her what she had in her car, the woman admitted to having a marijuana cigarette in her pack. Wilkie instructed her to exit the car and he searched her twice. The woman claims Wilkie inappropriately touched her crotch, where he found a, quote, marijuana roach. All right, continuing. Wilkie told the woman that if she allowed him to baptize her, he would let her go with just a citation. Okay. I have thoughts on this, but let's continue for now. Wilkie faces numerous lawsuits in several cases involving alleged excessive use of force, including the alleged unlawful body cavity search of a man while performing a traffic stop and the alleged groping of female minors. The requested damages in the lawsuits total around $11 million. I want to add the unlawful body cavity search. It was in another article, I guess, but the guy had like anal bruising and damage. This was not like a gentle procedure. This was definitely a violent experience. But continuing, according to Hamilton County court documents, Wilkie has been indicted on 44 charges, including 6 counts of sexual battery, 2 counts of rape, 9 counts of official oppression, extortion, stalking, and assault, among others. So this guy has numerous lawsuits against him. So, what can we make, first of all, of the, hey, if you let me baptize you, I'll let you go? To me, I mean, this is a guy with also rape charges against him. So, what that says to me is a sort of religious sublimation, because what's normally the bargaining is like, oh, if you do a sexual favor, you can get out of this, consequence, this punishment, arrested or whatever, which perhaps has happened in the past. I don't know all the details of the allegations against this guy. But then it gets sort of sublimated into this, let me, blank you basically. Let me baptize you. So he puts in this sort of religious thing. There's a ritual component here instead. Maybe the guy's trying to control himself in some way. By the way, I'm not praising this. It's obviously, I'm just saying, I think maybe this is one case where he restrained himself from going the full distance by, substituting, he'll be satisfied with a baptism rather than some sort of like direct sexual favor. But so that was April 8 that the case got approved. Then we come back to the first thing, April 14, the woman who was suing the sheriff for forcibly baptizing her was found dead. So let's do the rest of the details on that one. Hamilton County deputies found the body of 42-year-old Chandel Marie Riley at a home on Log Cabin Lane. The cause of death is still unknown, and an autopsy is yet to be conducted. Former Deputy Daniel Wilkie was indicted in 2019 on 44 charges, including rape, assault, and official oppression, after he pulled over Riley and during the course of the traffic stop, found her to be in possession of marijuana, and placed her under arrest. So anyway, it goes on there, and she talks about that. But so the Hamilton County District Attorney has requested that the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation investigate her death. So she turns up dead a week later. Coincidence? Right. So this is what's going on as far as, I had more details on this. I'm not sure what happened to him. Oh, well. Anyway, this is some of the things going on in the United States, and felt like covering that story, so there it is. It's out there now. Let's see what else we have. Back to orgs and joining orgs. So I do have to go in a few minutes, so I'm going to wrap this up. Somebody says, my advice would be to research the org you want to join well and make sure that they're not Trotskyists. Yes, Trot orgs abound in the U.S. All my orgs meetings are online, and they're really understanding about social anxiety. So you mean like you have like Zoom meetings? That makes sense. I mean, for pandemic reasons, like people talking about, having just a general meeting over, Zoom or something like that, probably makes sense for now. Obviously, assuming you're not talking about something super sensitive, planning a protest or something, whatever. They're really understanding about social anxiety, which I suffer from too. Yeah, that's another thing I would say is like you're likely to find sympathetic people in a left org about, things like social anxiety, and people understand the impacts that living in this society has on people. So nothing makes me feel better than being around like-minded people, helping our community. I'm lucky to have a good one. Yeah. So continuing, somebody says, speaking of water, I heard that the Navy recently poisoned Hawaiian water sources with fuel, claimed they fixed it. Yeah, this is the Red Hill incident, if people want to look that up. Somebody asks, is SRA, Socialist Rifle Association, Trotskyist? There are multi-tendency, including soc dems and anarchists, according to another person here. So, let's see. Yeah, somebody says, I became homeless in the last few months. Some of my comrades in the PSL were some of the only ones who cared. I have housing now, but nobody can accomplish anything by themselves. Life is a group activity. You are absolutely right. Dead right. That's what I'm saying is like get out there and network with people. You don't know who you're going to meet, the worst thing about life, I think, is when you get to a point where you think that you've sort of seen it all, done it all, know it all, etc. And this doesn't even always happen consciously. Just sometimes you hit a point where it seems like nothing new is happening, nothing new is happening. That's when the biggest breakthroughs usually come, is when you've reached the absolute limits of your current situation, your current worldview, etc. Then something comes out of left field that was just completely not on your radar. You meet somebody new, or you stumble onto some new thing that is like exactly right for you, but you didn't know existed, whatever it is, some avenue of research that puts you in contact with new ideas and people and history that was like right in front of your nose the whole time, but you didn't know it was there, whatever the case. And sometimes, sometimes you, really do reach the end of a certain situation and there's nothing else to find in that situation. But like I said, that's the time when, a lot of times a new situation pops up. But you do have to, it doesn't just drop in your lap, I guess is what I'm trying to say. You do have to put yourself out there to a reasonable degree, or when is the lightning going to strike if you don't go out in the storm? So if you can't help yourself, help your comrades. It might help you feel better too. Absolutely. Cooking with S4A, kind of, that actually makes me laugh to the point that I might have to do those videos now just to use the title, or like at least make a playlist, Cooking with S4A. That's, I don't know what is making me laugh so much about that, but that's funny. So continuing with the original commenter asking about organizations, I'm not expecting anything to be perfect. I'm more just trying to manage my expectations as far as what one does in an org, like meetings, communication, structure. I guess it's one of those questions that's frustrating to have because you're not sure how to ask it. I will say, from the orgs that I have been aware of, like whatever process they use, whether it's like Robert's rules or whatever their decision-making process is, they will teach it to you. So don't worry about that. They will orient you to all that stuff. That's the best I can put it, I guess, right now. On the food thing, somebody says buying Instapot saved me. My partner and I have totally different eating preferences and work-demanding jobs. Hate to market a product, but it makes things way easier. Yeah, I will say for people who don't, know how to cook tremendously well, Instapot is kind of like a pressure cooker, which the advantage of cooking under pressure is that, well, as we know, liquid water only gets to 212 degrees. After that, it turns to steam. Steam can keep going hotter than 212 or 100 Celsius. And the thing about steam, though, is it kind of flies away. Not under pressure, though. Under pressure, you can cook with the steam, so you can cook at higher temperatures. Cooking beans in particular, really, you can save yourself so much money and time by cooking beans in a pressure cooker, like buying them dry, soaking them in the fridge, draining the water, rinsing them, and then cooking them in a pressure cooker will take you about 20 minutes and so much cheaper than buying beans. And then you can use them in rice and stir fries and all kinds of stuff. You can, mash them up and make patties out of them, like burgers, add some spices, whatever. So yeah, Instapot, it's like a pressure cooker. I think you don't have to use it as a pressure cooker, but I think it can be, correct? But there's all kinds of recipe books out there. I remember, like, back when I was still on Facebook, there's like a million Instapot, like, recipe groups. And, like, some people put some pretty whack, like, look what I made. And people are like, why did you make that? But, hey, they did it in an Instapot, so it's cool. Yeah, that definitely can be worth it. And again, even if you make like one big pot of your own stuff per week, that's 4 or 5 meals you don't have to get out somewhere. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. But yeah, no, I know you're not marketing a product. It's just like, that is a very common one. I have like my own pressure cooker, but actually I got one of those Instapots as a gift. I don't use it quite as much as like just sort of the random like stovetop pressure cooker, but yeah, they are useful. What else? Somebody adds on the org thing, I think any good org needs to have a good understanding of labor aristocracy. Any org that doesn't any org that doesn't put the most exploited first will have the tendency to be backward and chauvinist. Same time, Trot and anarchists are counter-revolutionary. So Yes, as far as understanding the labor aristocracy, uh, standing ovation there, because this is really key in the United States. This is how you avoid becoming a patsy. Um, you have to understand that the U.S. working class is a labor aristocracy. That is really important. Otherwise, you might as well go join Caleb Maupin's thing. That definitely doesn't, want to understand that. Not that I feel gross even like saying that name. We managed to get this far. I've been going for 2 hours. I managed to avoid saying that name. Why? Now I just feel gross, but it's okay. Not your fault. Uh, yeah, labor aristocracy. Very, very key. A U.S. organization that doesn't understand labor aristocracy, um, useless, or borderline useless, but probably will eventually become harmful at some point. So more than useless. So let's see. All right, I think I'm just going to take another question or two and then wrap up. I will say the stream was pretty good. I'll definitely be putting this over on the YouTube. We were talking about before I started recording. Not every week's stream gets. Sometimes the magic is just not there, and it's not necessarily worth posting over on the channel. This one I'll definitely put up though. So somebody says, in an org, you want an org that has democratic centralism structure, but like you and S4A say, nothing is perfect. Important to get some experience foremost at the same time. Get some experience while at the same time, don't waste your time. Do what's right for you as a principled Marxist. So yeah, I'll add to that. Being in a good org, you can learn a lot, do a lot. Being in a bad org can literally be life-threatening. I mean, life-shattering at a minimum. I was talking to somebody recently who is in a good org now, but was in a very bad org previously that, there was like some kind of sex slavery thing going on. Not good stuff. So, I mean, that's an extreme case, but I mean, there are bad orgs out there. Let's just put it that way. You want to find a good one, and it is important to be kind of choosy. So I will throw it out there. IMT, International Marxist Tendency, is Trotskyist. So, I liked the look of a lot of their websites, and I liked their presence in a way. And then I started actually reading it. I was like, oh, it's Trots. So, yeah, you got to kind of be careful of that. The other thing about them, this was the case with ISO too, which was also Trotskyist. The amount of fucking front groups they would set up, where you would sort of show up, and then be like, "Why is the whole room people from the oh fuck, it's an ISO group," But they don't advertise that up front, and it's I think that they have caught on that people don't like them. Of course, the ISO isn't around anymore, but that was sort of my introduction to real world socialism, and literally it turned me off to socialism for a while. Hard to imagine 1,000 years into the future without a Marxist revolution. I think you'd be talking about a dead planet. That's what I think. I think the later chapters of H.G. Wells' The Time Machine, where it's just he encounters the giant crab on the beach, and there's no human civilization. I think it would look like that. 2+ years of COVID hasn't been kind to our social anxiety. Yeah. I mean, again, some of the studies I saw, I don't think it was conclusive at the time, but there was research suggesting that when there was the lockdown and other, mask mandates and things, people's mental health was actually better in that people felt like the problem was being handled, they weren't in as much danger. It was when kids started getting sent back to schools and things like that, that rates of, depression and drug abuse and things like that started going up a little bit. Again, I would need to check in with that research because I don't think it was conclusive. I think it was at least contested, but how do we, we'll leave it maybe here. How do you respond to people who think socialism is just social justice, or that Scandinavia is somehow socialist? I mean, first of all, understand that those people are not very far along if they think that. they're probably just coming out of like, you know, just slightly becoming disillusioned with the Democratic Party, maybe something like that. Understand like they have not probably done a lot of the reading that you have, and start there. Understand maybe their class position is different. I mean, if you know who they are and like what they do for work, what their family does, like you can learn a little bit more about like, are they just sort of better off and trying to stay better off? I mean, again, even petty bourgeois people can come around to socialism and realize that aligning with the proletariat is better than aligning with the big bourgeoisie. But there are different things that can influence somebody to take those kinds of views. But probably, especially in the U.S., it's probably like they don't really know anything. So start, try to be as patient as you can, but understand they probably just are fairly ignorant. They maybe read, they listen to like maybe a SOCDEM online, and that's as, maybe they're like a David Pakman fan, or maybe they listen to TYT. Start there and, educate them. Do what you can. And practice too. Build up a repertoire. Like the more conversations you have with people like that, I think the more you sort of figure out there are some like typical moves that conversation will go through. Typical things that they'll say, and then you can try different responses to what they say, and then repeat what works. Experiment, try different things. So, because obviously socialism's a lot more than that. I mean, if anything, that was the tendency that sort of most Marxists had a real problem with from the very beginning. Back to like Bernstein. So, there's always been people who are trying to say that socialism, Marx is irrelevant. Back in Lenin's day, Lenin writes frequently about how people are trying to say like Marx is outdated, and he's writing in like 1905. So, people have always tried to say that, and just point out like, people have tried to say that shit forever. It wasn't right then, it's not right now. All right, one more thing. So, on the thing about Win Bruce earlier, they were subscribed to a laundry list of different Marxists and et cetera, and a handful of very select ANCOMs. It wasn't that any one person didn't cover it, it was just collectively they hadn't seen any coverage of it. Yeah, I mean, this was just a few days ago. I don't know if people are going to wind up covering it at some point this week. But I hear you. That certain times things do go under the radar. I mean, that screenshot that I put up, that was from Huffington Post. So it could be that more of the, okay, you know what? Actually, this is a good note to end on for sort of, the Mr. Rogers changing the shoes back. Like, let's sum up what we learned today. This is, I think, a good note to end on for the day. The broader left, you have Marxists, anarchists, and SOCDEMs. Basically how people would, describe it these days. And we have our issues with the anarchists. We have our issues with the SOCDEMs. But we do need to keep tabs on what is going on in the different realms, because sometimes anarchists, I think this may change at some point. Anarchists tend to do a lot more direct action stuff than I see Marxists doing. They're not maybe as organized, and they're not trying to do a party and stuff like that, but they're doing lots of direct action. They are doing, in some cases, more community organizing. And that is just what it is. And then as far as the SOCDEMs, they're much more adjacent to the sort of like CNN reaction video type stuff, media criticism, cultural commentary, stuff like that. But they're more likely to cover stuff like, I think, Win Bruce. So I haven't looked at, Status Quo and stuff like that, or like Graham Elwood. I don't really like follow them closely. But my guess is you would find more mentions of something like that there. So you raise a good point, and I guess that's my response to it, is like, I think that, for me, having a Marxist channel, like, I don't want to be Kyle Kalinske, just sort of like commenting on every little thing that the Republican Party does, or that sort of day-to-day current event, Huffington Post, like Democracy Now! Type stuff. I guarantee you Democracy Now! Covered it. But this is, why we do, as Marxists, need to focus on, protect, develop, and expand what is particular to us. Why? Because no one else is going to do it. We're the Marxists, and they aren't. So the things that are particular to us, we need to focus on and expand that and bring that to the broader left. Obviously, they're going to push back on some of it and all that stuff. It's going to have conflicts, but we're putting it out there to the broader left, just as anarchists do and just as SOCDEMs do. But you can't focus exclusively on it. You do have to be aware of what else is going on the broader left. Keep your criticisms of it, But it's not that like everything that they're covering is totally invalid. It's just, I think that overall you see all these different things covered. They may not have the same political analysis that we would do of it, nor do I think it's right to absolutely duplicate everything that they're doing, but with more Marxist conclusions, if you will. Otherwise, I would be hanging with the SOCDEM gang stuff every single day. There'd be 18 videos of it on the channel per day. But that's not to say that they're not covering valid issues in a lot of cases. They are. So my guess is that Win Bruce probably got covered more on the SOCDEM side of left media. And this is, I think, a good case to be made for Marxists, MLs, MLMs, just staying in touch and not going too far down our exclusive little, cave. So anyway, hopefully that's a constructive thing to make out of that. I got to get going. I want to thank everybody for showing up. And I will, probably in vain, but I will take the rest of the chat. I'll see if I can respond to it later in the week. I've tried, this is the third time I've tried to do that, and I probably won't be able to do it, but I'll take it just in case I ever get around to responding to the rest of the chat. Anyway, otherwise, yeah, thanks to everybody for showing up. We got in some current events. When I tried doing these current events before, I would kind of do them all at the front. I don't think that was a good way to do it. I think sort of sprinkling them throughout the live stream worked better. And so, live and learn, experiment. We're scientists here. We're Marxists. So, that's how it goes. Anyway, I'm going to call it here. Thanks again to the patrons, and thanks to everyone for listening over on the YouTube channel. We usually do these on Tuesdays. I had some time this Wednesday to do it, and we'll see. But yeah, probably these will stay as a weekly thing, though sometimes I may need to take a week off. That's just the way it goes. But all of you, best wishes for all of your projects, all of your organizing that you're doing out there, or if you're just studying right now and just, bantering with other comrades online, on Discord, whatever, then good luck with that as well. Be safe, and we will catch you in the next video.